How you doing? You're muted. You hear me? You're on mute.
How about now?
Yep.
There you go. Finally starting to dry out there, dry up out there a little bit.
Yeah, I bet everyone's fighting it.
Yep.
Yes, indeed. All right. What do we have here? All right. What do you know?
Not much.
I find that hard to believe.
Others forget about us.
I think they did. I think they did. What are you gonna do? What have you been doing to pass the time?
I've been helping Crafton Heritage try to get their website up.
You mentioned that. What is that?
That's more of an addition to the Crafton Historical Society we used to have.
Yeah.
It went defunct and everybody left it alone. All the stuff went off to the library. Well,
Right. Hi, Lydia.
Hi, Lydia.
Rich is telling us about the Crafton Heritage.
Oh, cool. Are you part of Crafton Heritage?
What's that?
Are you part of Crafton Heritage?
I'm the treasurer for Crafton Heritage.
Oh, that's great. I met Charles at that pop-up event last 2 Octobers ago.
Right. And Charles and John, who were running it at that time, they backed down from it to concentrate on keeping the School of Art running, Crafton School of Art.
That makes sense.
Hey, Lydia.
Who's heading it up now?
Crystal.
Oh, okay.
Crystal Bean.
That's great.
Lydia, if you go into your audio settings and click on your microphone, turn down the heat on it just about 30%, because you're on the high end of it, so your voice gets distorted.
Mm-hmm.
Good old Crystal. Crystal has quite the reputation here on our street. Oh, yes, she does. We can't hear you while I think you're in the audio testing mode or something. Not yet.
No.
How about now?
Yes.
There you go.
Oh, and it's perfect.
Is
Yeah.
that better? Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Thank you for letting me know.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Yeah, Crystal is she's a piece of work. Her husband
Yes.
George, I see all the time. he has kind words to say about his espoused. Oh man. There's Colton.
Okay.
How's everybody's week going?
It's just relentless.
Really?
Oh man. What a slug. Hey Colton.
Hi, Colton.
Hi there, how are you?
Pretty
Yeah.
good. How are you?
Good.
And is that you, Doug?
That's
it's
me.
Kirsten.
I'm glad you guys could all get in. I thought that I had to be the one to start it. I probably could have just signed in for my own account. I was like trying to remember the login to the Crafton account.
Yeah, I think you can choose in the settings if the meeting can
There you
start
go.
without you. And I think I had it set up that it could.
Yeah, well, that's good. I didn't realize. I was scrambling around trying to find the login.
Well, welcome. We're glad you made it. Hooray.
All right, well, hello, everybody.
All right.
Let me go ahead and get my screen opened here. So I guess for the future, Lydia, since you're familiar with doing this, do we not need to have anyone from the Crafton account on these to have the meeting?
I don't think we do. I used to do what you just did, and then
Oh.
I started joining from my own name without any issues. And sometimes Doug would join from Crafton's, sometimes Phil would join from Crafton's, and sometimes nobody would. And it seemed
Okay.
to work regardless.
That's good to know. Well, should we get started and have a call to order?
Yep.
Sure.
Yes.
Roll call. Rich?
Yep.
Lydia?
Here.
Colton?
Here.
And Eric?
Here.
And we're getting started at 6:32.
Got it.
And I see we have someone who is connecting. So we'll give him a sec to connect his audio and see if we can start off with citizen comments.
While they're connecting, just so everybody else knows, in case we're in the middle of something very important, I have to leave at about 10 to 7. So I'm going to gracefully bow out quietly if something important's going on.
Right.
But you have to first start by explaining the orange. Is there a story there?
The orange?
Your profile picture, you got orange tie, orange shirt.
Oh yeah, that was yeah, that was for work. But yeah, that was my office headshot that we had to get done for our badge photos. So
Cool.
yeah.
Him from.
Well, I think we'll continue with our first comment, our first items here, and then we can come back to citizen comments if there are any. But our first items, and this might be a fairly quick meeting, so Colton, you may not be missing out on a lot tonight. We'll see. The first item on our agenda is the MAP grant status. and they haven't awarded it yet. Nick actually sent Lydia an email, so you can fill in, Lydia, what if you want to add to this, but he basically said that they are a little behind and they're still assessing how many funds they'll have to give out this year. And so we're still well positioned for it, but it's not guaranteed. They don't know how many communities they'll be able to fund this year or in this next round anyways. And they haven't made it, they haven't finalized that yet.
They plan to make a decision by the end of March, I think.
Yeah, so update is that one's still pending. No more update to share yet.
The only other update is that Ingram Council did vote to sign the EPD extension letter. So that the way that EPD extension letter was worded was that if no technical work began, no funds would be incurred. So Ingram felt comfortable signing the proposal to contract them to be our consultant if in the event that the grant is awarded. Crafton Borough has not signed that same extension letter yet.
Yeah, and actually adding on that, Greg also said that Ingram is not willing to make a decision yet on what they would do if we were to not get the grant, but that they are likely still interested in proceeding, regardless of whether we get the grant or not. But that's all still to be dealt with in the future, because first we'll hear whether we were awarded the MAP grant in the first place. And then also Crafton has not yet, Crafton Council has not yet approved. That extension or willingness to continue with proceeding with beginning the zoning. So
I won't go so far as it was a promise made to us, but I would say it's a quasi promise maybe made to us that they needed to get through the bond issue, right? And then once that's underway, then they can turn their attention back to this, but didn't want to do it simultaneously. So I think, is there maybe a motion that we could make or something that we could say to adequately and professionally nudge the council on our recommendation to move forward and follow Ingram's trailblazing footsteps?
I think we've already done that. We know that they had a number of things on their plate this month. Right. So I will reach out and remind them next month. We can motion again, but they already have a motion.
I motion to remind the Borough Council that we should make haste. Anyone second?
All right, well, I'll second that motion.
Cool. Right. Now we've got something on the rolls, right?
And I'll reach out and follow up on that in the next couple of weeks, so that hopefully by the time we get to our next meeting in March, we have more of a substantial update to share.
Is that our first ever motion to remind?
Moving on with the next item on our agenda here, the park planning updates.
You want to roll back to citizen comments since there were people joining when we were teeing off? I don't know.
Well, I see we have Alan Dorfield, and we take citizen comments at the end too, if you'd like to listen in. But Alan, if you would like to unmute yourself and make any citizen comments as we get started, you're welcome to.
It's good.
Not yet.
Well, again, we'll come back to that. So if there are comments that come up, we have that at the end as well.
Just a little housekeeping for attendees on their version of Zoom. Can they unmute? Can they raise hands? What version do they have? Do we know?
I think
She's calling my
they
name out.
can unmute
I
and
don't
participate.
know.
Looks like Alan is currently
Says
unmuted.
unmute.
Here he
Yes,
is.
I am. I have nothing to say.
All right.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us.
We do. Welcome, Alan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Patty as well. Looks like Patty joined. So anyway, if you have any citizen comments, jump in, but we're gonna roll forward, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for my sore throat today. The next item on our agenda here, the park planning updates. These are also in a holding pattern, so not a lot of update to give, but there are two components to this, both of which we talked about at last month's meeting. We do have a grant that's been funded to do a Parks Master Plan update. Those funds are already in place. We have already reached out to the firm that did the previous edition to do the updates. We have a consultant already selected. And I reached out to Doug this morning and nothing is moving forward just yet, but this is only just getting started. So I'd imagine that we'll hear more and that we'll have more to update on that next month as it gets underway. So yeah, minimal update. We still all are going to be doing a Parks Master Plan update. It hasn't started yet, but it will start soon. So more to come in March on that. And then the second portion of that, which we also discussed last month, is that there is a possibility of pursuing additional funding to implement a project that was identified in the last Parks Master Plan. And this group discussed whether we should recommend that to council or not. Council has already made the decision to pursue that. The funding was actually, it was explicitly offered to them that because we had a previous Parks Master Plan and they had previously been offered this funding and hadn't used it, someone had reached out to them and reminded them that if they still wanted it, Crafton could still qualify. So there's nothing for us to recommend. The funding has already been offered. Council is already pursuing that.
Right.
Okay, good.
So that's happening. And again, there was no more information available on it yet, but they're pursuing it, and that funding will be used to implement a project that was identified in the previous Parks Master Plan.
We don't know what project that was.
Doug, last month, and correct me, anyone else, if you remember differently, I thought he said that it was going to be used for the pool.
Specifically, I believe it was the pool house, and I think it was many years ago when this was done, the match or something wasn't available, and the the council at the time, had to turn it down. They didn't feel comfortable being able to support it. Like any other town in America, you can turn your head on a swivel in any direction you want. There's plenty of things to invest into, and that's as good as any. And quite frankly, the pool house wasn't open last year because of COVID. For those of you that have ever been into it, it could use a modernization at a bare minimum. And with the new pool liner and the investment that went into the splash pad, kids area, all those things, it seems to fit as I would say that that's the number one used destination by the population of Crafton, so seems like to me personally, just my opinion, seems like a smart investment to make at this point in time.
In any case, it's not really something that is under the Planning Commission's purview at this point.
Right.
Council is pursuing the funding. It's going to be a public works implementation of a previous plan that was already in place. So there's really nothing that is needed from us on that.
Moral support. We can give them our moral support. There you go. Anyway, sorry.
And that's about it. It's a pretty slim update. The update is that things are moving and nothing is needed from us on that particular funding opportunity. So I think that's positive news for us. This came up in last month's Planning Commission meeting, and we were very slim on the details of what the grant was going to be and what the possibility would be of pursuing it and whether council was interested in that or not. So this was all positive news that it is moving forward. Council has already made that. They've already been pursuing it. It sounds like it's basically guaranteed. And so positive news, even though there's nothing for us to do further on that count.
But we can still say it's our idea, right? Sorry.
I think you get all the credit, Eric.
Yeah.
If you really want to, Eric, but anyone who wants to listen to last month's meeting, I think we'll hear that Coletta's the one that brought that up. So we have to
Coletta.
yes, we have to give her.
She
due.
gets all the press.
The next agenda item I had up here before we get into our final two items, which are a little bit less fixed and a little bit more discussion oriented, is I thought we would review the January meeting minutes and get that item out of the way.
Yep.
So hopefully everyone has had a chance to review those, but I'll bring them up as well.
The hell are we doing here?
So we'll just give a minute or so for everyone to be able to review these if you haven't yet, and for those on the line to be able to see what we talked about last month.
How about somebody reading it? Can't read it.
Oh, sure, I can do that. So the meeting began, and I'll summarize the minutes so as not to belabor it, with the reorganization where we thank Lydia for serving as chair and doing all that she does. And we welcomed Kirsten into your screen disappeared. We welcome Kirsten to be our chair for the coming year and going forward. There was a really nice presentation done by some citizens, Greg Wozniak and James Manchin, about just thinking through other alternatives and helping kind of frame some community input around the Linden property where the old Crafton School District ball stadium was. And then we moved on and talked about a grant, the DCED, which is a grant that is going to help us with a couple of things around town. One, I think this was this specifically about initially about the zoning grant, and then we also spoke about the DCED grant, or was it a different funding source for the park commission or for the park plan? I don't remember.
That was actually not specified in last month's meeting, which was part of why we were uncomfortable pursuing a vote or motion on it until we got more information.
I see.
Right.
And that was pretty much the summary of it. But I'll say anyone listening, if you have a chance, they're all archived on the website. last month's meeting with that alternate plan for Linden. I wouldn't say it's a plan per se, but a vision statement or community feedback, whatever you want to say. It didn't feature a developer or potential investor or anything along those lines. Just feedback from our peers here in the borough about what that property could represent. I thought it was well thought out. It was very well put together presentation. And then that's it. We talked about the workshop getting underway, and those were the minutes. So if everybody's okay with it, I'll motion to approve.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, it's approved.
You want to throw the agenda back up?
Yeah, I'm getting it back up now.
Cool beans.
And that was a good reminder, Eric, for those that are on the line this time, if they've missed but are interested in seeing that citizen, those resident ideas that were shared at the last meeting, those are available on the website. That kind of concludes all of our ongoing current business. It is a bit light this month. We're waiting for several things to come through. So kind of nice, actually, I think, after last month's very, very long and very busy Planning Commission meeting, and we should have more on the agenda next month. So I wanted to take some time in tonight's meeting to have a wrap up or post-workshop discussion of our takeaways from the last planning workshop that we had, which was, trying to remember the date, end of January.
It was February 3rd.
February 3rd. With
February
Gateway-
3rd.
With Gateway Engineers as our special guest.
So it was the week after our last Planning Commission meeting. We held a public workshop, which was also recorded and can be available. I don't know if that's posted on the website yet. I don't know if anyone knows if it's been posted on the website yet, but we had a public workshop that reviewed the concepts and ideas that have been put together for the Crafton Boulevard sewer separation project.
Sorry to interrupt. It was posted because I know Greg Wozniak was able to watch it.
Oh, that's great.
Okay,
I was
great,
just
thanks.
looking it up. Thank you.
So we did an overview presentation of the project itself, what it impacts and what is involved in the Crafton Boulevard sewer separation, how it works. And our focus especially was intending to be on the above ground impact, recognizing that by redoing the sewer lines in this area, we're ripping up the road. And so we wanted to present how that road will be put back and some of the improvements that that this Planning Commission and that public participants and that the council and the Gateway had all been discussing, including in the rebuilding of Crafton Boulevard as a part of that project. And we did have Gateway engineers with us. They did a very lengthy presentation and shared quite a lot of information. And then we had some resident concerns and feedback based on the things that were shared that evening. So wanted to have a Planning Commission discussion of our takeaways from that workshop and what we think we would like our next steps to be if we want to take next steps.
I'll jump in. I think there was enough feedback that kind of warranted asking council to get a real traffic study completed at the Bradford Crafton Boulevard intersection. Sounds like there's some differing opinions on keeping Bradford Avenue the throughway without a stop sign, or making it a three-way stop, or some other option. And it may make the most sense to really be able to point back to a real document that gives full reasons why the borough is choosing a particular route, or at least weighs a couple options and lays out the pros and cons for each option.
I think a traffic study for a single intersection is unusual. But
Well,
I think we can continue talking about, talking in this direction of what we think would be appropriate, or if we think that we should have a role in this.
well, can I say, maybe it's not a traffic study, maybe there's a technical connotation to that phrase. Maybe it's just, will somebody, take a closer inspection thereof? Because it sounded like the engineer walked around and said, well, I think we should do it this way. And a decision was made. And it seems like a little more research could be put into it. And maybe that's what we could recommend is, a little more due diligence placed into it before we start changing stop signs.
I think we can definitely ask for more due diligence.
Right? Maybe that's
And
easy
maybe more
way.
thorough reasoning for decisions that are made.
Yeah.
I know that one of the reasons that intersection was initially brought up by me anyways, was a desire for more pedestrian safety. And it is an intersection that has had issues with pedestrian safety and pedestrian crossing. And that was one of the goals that I was hoping to see in that plan. And I would say that I'm less concerned with what the actual recommendation is, and more concerned with seeing that they're upholding the goals that we want to convey, first and foremost, and then justifying, I think, in building on what Eric said, showing that they've done their due diligence and are able to reason why they're making this decision or another. I think I would be more comfortable having the planning commission focus more on what goals we want them to justify rather than what specific end result we want to see. But that was just my idea of how we could approach this. And I don't know if we all have the same idea or if we even have the same goals for that area. So I thought we could discuss what we are looking for.
Well, we do share some goals because we all believe in the strategic plan, right? We're all subscribers of the strategic plan, and one of the compelling aspects of the strategic plan, Crafton Ingram Thrive,
Comprehensive plan.
the comprehensive plan is the walkability concept. And that is city block from one of our most well-attended community features, which is the elementary school, and it is a notoriously complex intersection, and if you were to drive from Pittsburgh through Crafton without that stop sign in place, you could blow all the way through Crafton basically until you got to the school. So
I do just want us to not, I do want to add one update since that workshop happened. That stop sign will not be removed.
Oh.
Gateway presented that without running it by anyone, including council. They were reprimanded for it. That stop sign is back, that the existing stop sign will not be removed.
That's great news. Well, our work here is done. Let me close my briefcase. Snap, snap. Thanks, Rich. That's great. That's great to hear. Thanks for sharing that. But I'll just go ahead and say, great job, everybody, for putting on the workshop, because without that conversation, without that event, we couldn't have had that conversation. It could have led to, kind of bringing attention to that, which, I'm also thrilled to hear the council heard it and said, no, that's not a great idea. But it seems like that's kind of the spirit of what we want in these workshops. So as far as the takeaway, I feel really very appreciative for all the work that, especially you two, Lydia and Kirsten, let's face it, that you guys put into putting that show on, right? Making it happen.
So I don't know what the final, I don't know what the final gateway plan will look like. And I'm sure it's not done yet, and I haven't seen an update since that version we saw a few weeks ago. I do know that they were told to put that stop sign back in. I don't know what that will mean for the intersection as a whole.
Right.
I know that at the workshop, Gateway had shared their idea, again, shared in the workshop without having run it by us or council first. So this was not something that was shared during the workshop with anyone's prior approval. They shared the idea of taking out the stop sign along Crafton Boulevard and adding a stop sign at the top of Bradford. And I don't know what, I do know that they were told to put back the stop sign on Crafton Boulevard, but I don't know what their final plan will be for the rest of the intersection, whether it will involve a three-way stop, a two-way stop, some other configuration. And I think that if we have any strong feelings on that, we can discuss that tonight and make a recommendation. If we want to simply return to what we began with and say that we strongly believe in the ideals that were put forth in the comprehensive plan and which were echoed again in the vision document that was given to them last year, which listed out the items and ways which the comprehensive plan could be applied in that particular area. That may be all we want to do, is just to simply remind them of this is what we are, this is what our goals are, and this is what we would like to promote you to look into.
Can have 2 reminder motions tonight.
I will make that reminder motion if anyone cares to second.
I second.
That sounds good. I'm happy to discuss this further, or other ideas about our takeaways from the workshop as a whole, or ideas for future workshops. I guess I did want to hear everyone's thoughts on how we wanted to handle that intersection. So I like the reminder motion. Not particularly comfortable with the Planning Commission delving into making specific traffic recommendations that no one has asked for us for. So
Right.
that was
Plus, we're not traffic engineers.
yeah. So I think the reminder motion is a good way to go.
Yep.
One other comment that we did hear as feedback from that workshop, as a follow-on from Greg Wozniak, was whether the borough can do a better job protecting existing brick streets during construction by potentially limiting, access on the brick streets if the construction company is not actively working on that street. So, for instance, having clauses in the contract saying, construction vehicles not permitted on this, and this street that are adjacent to the area that they're working on. Another idea is asking the borough to, be more specific with the contractors on the types of wheels they use on their equipment. So no metal treads, for instance, if they're going to be traversing brick streets. I think those are some good recommendations that Greg brought forward to protect and ensure that some of the features of Crafton don't get degraded just because we're investing in other areas for infrastructure. Kind of protect what we have while investing in our infrastructure so that in the end, everything looks nice and works well.
Lydia, I couldn't agree with you more. And the fact that Mr. Wozniak took the time to send that, as well as the resources. It's one thing to say, well, somebody said this, but to provide evidence, like collegiate studies, Carnegie Mellon University in anybody's book is a pretty darn smart group. The reality is, this is something that more and more people are finding as a facet that's attractive in a town, in a community. And so looking for opportunities to where a street has to be paved to replace, at least the crosswalks in brick, right? Those sorts of looking for opportunities to maintain that character. I think that we should pass along, and I know the email was sent. Lydia, thank you for sharing it to each of the council members. But I think, even sending it back to them from us, saying, this was feedback elicited from the community about preserving our brick character in our streetscape, as a reminder, because maybe they can get the email, or maybe it serves as reminder number 3 of the evening. But I just was so impressed with not only did he kind of bring an opinion and expressed it in a very actionable kind of way, but supported it with things that weren't nothing wrong with citizens' comments, but it goes even further when they're endorsed by kind of evidence-based thinking. So I think it was a really great thing for Greg to do.
I would actually suggest that we take the resources that he sent and perhaps look through them a bit more and pull out the things that are most relevant to us, but embed some of those comments and the links to those resources in our vision document, which hasn't been, and I mean, that does basically serve as a reminder. We can reissue it periodically.
Yeah.
But that vision document, when we first rolled it out, was some 8-9 months ago, was presented as a living document, and we haven't updated it yet. But I think the ideal way to use that document is as this repository for the ideas that we think about and come up with, and gather, and think about how they can best apply to our community. I think that's the ideal place to put them so that they don't get lost. They stay in an easily referenced location. And there was already a point in there that was very loosely made about keeping our brick streets. So I think a lot of the information that Greg shared and the studies that support it would really strengthen that and go well in there.
Yeah, I think that crosswalk idea came from you, as a matter of fact. I think that's why it's in there. So what can we do? So that's a great idea. What can we do to update that? How can we help? How do we get a copy of it? Or
well, it's posted on the planning commission.
Yeah,
in the planning commission.
It's a PDF, but do we want to make a Google? Do we want to make a Google Doc and maybe share that around? And there may be one already. I don't know.
I recall that formatting was hard to make it into a shared document for all of us to edit. I believe it was made into a Google Drive document, and I think this will be homework for me to follow up on. I believe I made it into a Google document, but the formatting was strange, and so it needed some work to get it properly formatted.
So I think that is probably on me to check on that and make sure that it's uploaded, and then make sure that it's in an editable format for everyone to be able to add to.
And if you find it, if you want to share a copy with me, I can work on formatting with you to kind of maybe make it into kind of going forward, keep it as a Google Doc, and then publish off a PDF version April 2021, version July 2022, or whatever. You know what I mean? So that we can always have the current PDF version on the website, but whoever's on Planning Commission can certainly use that as kind of a living, as you said, a living document.
Yeah, that's right. So I'll send out a link to this after this meeting, but I do see it. In fact, I'm going to put it up on my screen here. This is editable and it's posted on our Planning Commission drive, shared drive. And I will just check after this meeting. I'll check and make sure that there's not any other version that where I had perhaps begun the formatting. But this looks like it's in better shape than I thought it was actually. I thought the formatting was a little bit more, I thought there were some things that hadn't come in properly. And it looks like, you know, I can see some labels that didn't come in properly. So it needs a bit of formatting work. There we go. Yeah. It needs a little bit of updated formatting, but the document is there and is editable.
A minute. Cool. Oh, I'm in a version that looks much different than what you're in.
So again, I'll send out, there's an older version on as well that has the same name. So when we're done here, I'll go and clean that up. I'll make sure that it has the proper name. I'll send out the link to everyone on the Planning Commission. And I will work on it a bit before our next meeting. And Eric, I will definitely take you up on your offer to do some work on it and some formatting. But the parts of it that need the most, the parts of it where the formatting was an issue were some of the images. All of the text is editable, and certainly anybody who wants to go in and add text or even add images, we should all have that capability.
Do we want to come up with some sort of protocol to show if something was changed, or just use the version history for that?
Well, I think personally, and I think that the PDF shows the version, and Google, the magic of Google Vision, you can always go back to restore a date and see what it was.
Yeah, okay.
I would also say this is a pretty good group about being respectful of each other and also having different ideas. And so if you go in and add some new thoughts, maybe just put a note in parentheses or on the side that this was from so-and-so. I think it's not like anyone on this group to go in and delete something that someone else has added. We would tend to just add our own new thoughts, and then we can discuss at these meetings if we think that there's something that needs to be changed or removed.
That sounds good.
Anybody who's not familiar with it in Google, I don't know, I seem to live in the damn thing anymore. You can always in the upper right hand corner switch over to suggesting, and you can just type away to your heart's content, and it isn't until somebody accepts those suggestions that they would stick. So that's an easy way to do it as well. So, but what you said is, you know, obviously perfect as well.
For those who are listening in, that document, that vision document that was prepared by Planning Commission last year is available on the website, on the Crafton Borough website under the Planning Commission tab. But this living document that we would be typing in amongst the Planning Commission, that's something that only we can see until we issue a new update. So it's perfectly fine if it gets messy, if there are several comments from different people piling up. And when we're ready to, when we have some new ideas that we want to, we think we're ready to issue an updated version, and update the version on the website, then we can discuss it in one of these meetings and decide which, make sure we're all happy with the ideas and the wording that made it in there, and then issue an updated PDF. Were there any other comments or discussion items or thoughts that came out of the workshop that anyone wants to discuss before we move on? And on that topic, whether we answer tonight or we think about this before our March meeting, I want to just put it out to the Planning Commission to think about what next or what upcoming workshop we should focus on. What topics should we tackle in 2021? I don't know if I have anything pressing on my mind, but I know that the community really appreciated those, and I think we should keep going.
I do, and I'd like to put it out there. We don't have to decide anything, of course, unless we want to. You know, I think I mentioned it to this group before. Early on in the pandemic, hopefully we're in the latter stage of, but early on when garbage collection was a problem, the borough had placed a dumpster. I think it was a borough. I don't know. Maybe it was a fire hall. I don't know. Somebody placed a dumpster for the Crafton community to come and bring stuff to. I've heard a lot of really positive feedback around that. You know, it just seems like if you kind of think about the Thrive plan and the things that we've been doing, they've been around walkability, economic development. We haven't turned to the blight component of it, and maybe that's a, you know, maybe that's a workshop. You know, how to make season aware of problems. That you know, how to use the service request form on the borough website. How to, you know, how to say something when you see something, right? Maybe that's a and you know, and kind of frame it around the, you know, the blight, the you know, the, what did that old mayor Ravenstall, remember that guy? He did a whole thing. He was crazy. I think he went off the deep end at the end, but he did that thing about, what was it called, Red Up, like the Pittsburghese Red Up Pittsburgh, you know. It was a whole thing. I remember it. I don't remember the details of it. I didn't live in the city, but it was a whole thing where it was kind of a, you know, it was a thing, right? You know, clean up Pittsburgh, red up. I guess that's the way you say it in Pittsburgh speak. Red Up Pittsburgh, and it seemed to be, you know, pretty wildly successful in its own way. But maybe our own version of Clean Up Crafton. It's, you know, next month is Earth Day, right? Earth Day got canceled last year, and you know, kind of fizzled out when they redid it. You know, maybe that's our maybe that workshop is our Crafton Earth Day, right? Something along those lines around the blight and the cleanup and the reminding people that that there's resources in town and there's ways to get help and that sort of thing. What do you guys think about that?
Well, Earth Day is in 2 months, so that actually makes me like your idea better because that gives us a bit of time. It's only February.
I have no idea. I don't know where my
Earth Day is
cane
April
is. I lost
22nd.
my hard candy. I have no idea. What is this? Is it Thursday? Thank you.
Yeah, Earth Day is April 22nd, so that's 2 months from now. And I am not sure that we can pull off a workshop just based on blight or how to use the website, because those are, again, a bit outside of Planning Commission purview, and also hard to pull off an entire workshop based just on here are the tools available that make a great 5-minute Facebook video.
Okay.
But we can think about what else we can add to it and have it be some community brainstorming about what kind of programs and policies we can help move forward.
And I
around communication and advertising what we have, but maybe thinking about what additional things would the community like to see, what kinds of programs can we try to support. I know there's been a lot of confusion about recyclables. There was also that popular program that you mentioned, Eric, earlier in the You had mentioned the capability to a dumpster that allowed you to dispose of special items, and we do have a really excellent contract here with our waste management that allows us to dispose of all sorts of large and oversized and hazardous items, and lawn waste in various different ways. And there are other municipalities that have some programs that we might want to learn from. So maybe we
Yeah.
can consider that a planning commission, some planning commission brainstorming, and we can revisit next month what maybe several things we would like to put together into an Earth Day themed workshop in April.
I think that makes a ton of sense.
Do we want to try to get the social committee involved at some point to even do like an actual Crafton cleanup where we encourage people to go out and pick up litter they see in the trails, and I don't know if the park has trash, sometimes it does.
Well, there's a floodgate there that's ready to be opened. I saw in one of the survey, maybe it's a survey response or somebody talking about, the fact that we have a burn barrel, right? That's good, Pittsburgh, as a garbage can by the library, the donut shop or whatever. And we don't have anything, not even a burn barrel up by Capretti's, so there's a lack of garbage. We have a lot of people walk dogs and that sort of thing. So there's probably a lot in terms of the planning element of this and recommendations. Obviously, not policy making, but a bit of recommendation making one anyway. We can make some suggestions around. So yeah, I think that thinking about that for next month and maybe maybe as part of a way to promote it, right? Because we haven't really talked about marketing these sessions. Maybe as a way to promote it, if we did get an Earth Day focused April workshop, we could put a little sign on the side of the dumpster. You know what I mean? Have them get a dumpster and put it someplace, not in the way, but prominent. Because remember, I don't think they could put it in the middle of that parking lot now. It's that's a useful parking space these days. Back when everything was shut down, I don't think there was a single car parked in it.
Certainly
Probably
in other spaces though that are available. If we
I
want
would assume.
to encourage bringing that back.
I would assume that there's probably some place they could think of. It's still winter time, maybe even at the park. Anyway, I think if we just kind of, do we need a motion? Can we just think about it and come back to next month's meeting, maybe with some more ideas around what a session agenda could feel like?
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion for that. We can,
Cool.
just we've initiated a discussion and we'll revisit it next time. And in the meantime, keep thinking about it. There any other workshop comments or ideas or takeaways before we move on?
I know we had the master parks plan, as a topic for a future workshop, but obviously we're not ready to talk about it since it hasn't started, but hopefully we'll be able to fit it in this year. once things get moving.
I think that's a solid contender to do a workshop based on that, but I also think that I don't want to decide yet that we will,
Right.
because that will be a project that's being conducted by a consultant who will have it in their scope to do workshops. So I don't want to create any confusion or cross wires or take on work that someone else is being paid for. So let's cross that one when we get there and see, once that's underway, what kind of outreach they're doing and if we think that an additional workshop is useful.
Cool.
But yeah, that'll be a good topic as long as it's not going to be in conflict with anything else that's already being done for it. Well, so I'll move on then, unless there's there's anything else. The last item that was on my agenda was another reminder. This is a month full of reminders. About the eco districts, which we talked about. We talked about at the last Crafton Ingram joint meeting in November, and we will be having our next joint meeting with Ingram in March. We also had talked about the concept of the eco district previously. It's come up several times in the last year with this planning commission. And there's quite a lot to learn about it and to think about how we might like to approach this, or how we might like to apply it to our community. But in November, we did talk to Ingram about the idea, and they were interested in pursuing it. And we had left off in November. We set up a brainstorm document. We'd actually set it up even previous to that. So we have a planning commission accessible brainstorm document. And we had said that we would, think about some of our ideas, think about how we would like to describe this to the community if we decide to move forward. And, just everyone on the planning commissions in both Crafton and Ingram take some time to think about, research a little bit on eco districts if you want to, and think about how you see this applying to our community. So I just wanted to put another reminder out there. We, myself included, have not added anything to that document, at least since last time I looked at it. It was still empty, and I haven't added anything to it since. But I would like that to be on the agenda in March. We're not going to be making any major decisions at that point, but I would like us to have it on the agenda and talk about, some of our initial thoughts about it. So that's another thing for us all to just prepare in the next month, think about.
Kristen, do you think it's valuable to send a little note to Greg with the same type of reminder, just so he can get his head wrapped, he and his other commissioners can get their heads wrapped around it before we talk about it next month?
Yeah, I'll send Greg and Aaron a note, and I'll send it to Colton as well, since I know he had to this evening.
And there's a Jim Marsilio as
Jim.
well. Thanks.
We do have a folder that's set up, so if anyone finds resources you'd like to share, go ahead and put them in there. I will certainly aim to do so and send each of you some references or some examples that I come across, because I will definitely put some time into this as well.
And that's the eco district brain dump.
That's the eco district brain dump. Mhm.
In the Crafton Ingram shared folder, it's separate from our Crafton only planning commission drive.
Cool.
Yeah, so nothing anyone has to do, but I just wanted to send that reminder out. We've been talking about this. I'd like to have it back on the agenda for March. Like I said, I will definitely do some preparation and put some resources together, and I'll share those with all of you and anybody else who would like to also put anything in the brain dump or do any of your own research before March. I know Ingram had said that was one of their priorities to look into for this year. So I would like to make sure that we address that in March.
Cool.
Any questions or comments on the eco district topic, or should we move on to our closing citizen comments?
I'm good to move on.
Okay, well, we have two people still on the line. So Alan and Patty, do either of you have any comments or questions?
I don't know how to answer. No. You're asking me if I have anything to say. I don't know how to answer.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Just giving you another chance now that we're wrapping up. Well, shall we go ahead and close?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
we have to do all in favor?
Aye.
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 Hey, thanks, everybody.
Have a great night.
See
All
ya.
right, we're adjourning at 7:29. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks.